Today I wanted to come on and do a quick comparison of two Bibles that were recently released from Zondervan. So we have the Flourish, the NIV Bible for women, and we have Rooted, the NIV Bible for men. So I have both of these Bibles in the hardcover edition. I believe, at least for the women's Bible, I know there's a brown imitation leather, and I know there is a cloth over board, and I think there's an imitation leather option for the men's Bible as well. So I took the dust jackets off just because it's a little easier for me to review when I'm not balancing that as well. So this is the Flourish, this is the Rooted, and then without their dust jackets, this is the Flourish Bible for women, and this is the Rooted Bible for men. I will post full review links to both of these Bibles. I've recently reviewed both of them, so if you want to see a little bit more in depth, then you can check out those videos as well. But I wanted to do a quick comparison just so you could see what the differences are in these Bibles and the similarities, and if you want to purchase one for yourself or for someone else in your life, kind of what you're getting here in comparison. So what I'm going to do that is I'm going to go through one book in the Bible with both of them and just show you what it looks like, show you the features included in both. And I think that's a way to just kind of go through it quickly without paging through the whole Bible, since I did already review them, but also just highlighting the similarities and differences in that particular book. So I'm going to go through the book of Philippians, and I'm going to start with the Flourish Bible. This is the Bible for women. I will say too, before I start going over this, if you are one who likes women's Bibles but doesn't want a super girly, flowery looking Bible, this one is nice for that as well. I don't mind it either way, but I know some women might prefer that, so this is nice to have that option as well. Okay, anyway, let's go over Philippians. So this is in the Flourish Bible for women. This is the book introduction to Philippians. So it's going to break Philippians down into chapters here with a question to go with each set. So for example, we have chapter 1. This is verses 20 through 26. It says, to live or die, how could that be such a tough choice? And then we have chapter 2, verse 12 through 13. Is your spiritual growth your doing or God's? Chapter 3, verses 2 through 11. How do your pre-conversion credentials and accomplishments stack up against Paul's? And then finally, chapter 4, verse 13, why was I can't not a part of Paul's vocabulary? And then we're also going to see in the book introduction, we have the author, we have the date, the audience, and the setting. We have a verse to remember, which is, I want to know Christ. Yes, to know the power of his resurrection and participation in his sufferings, because becoming like him in his death. And then a theme to consider is knowing Christ is the supreme goal of life. Okay, so both of these Bibles are going to have a double column layout with a 9.5 size font, kind of a green color scheme, with the men's being a little darker, as you'll see in a minute here. So we're going to start out with a think about little call out here. This is think about marriage, and this is referencing chapter 2, verses 1 through 11. And then we're going to have one of the myth and the truth articles. So these articles give us a myth that we might see or fall into the trap of believing in our own lives, and then it is the truth, which gives us the truth about this based on scripture. So this one is the perfect church is out there, and then it gives you some information about why that's not necessarily true. And I like that it uses scripture to back up the truth part of it there. And then we're going to see a he is in control. So this is giving us some information about how God is in control. It is based on chapter 3, verses 19 through 21. And I'll just read that real quick. It says, many professing Christians pursue earthly things, allowing their appetites to hold sway over their lives. So Paul wrote to remind true believers that their citizenship is in heaven. For residents of God's kingdom, Christ will one day bring everything under his control. Your driver's license specifies your home state, your passport shows your national residence, but the things that control you reveal your spiritual citizenship. If earthly pleasures are your focus, then you're at home in this world. If you're preoccupied with heavenly things, then Jesus is in control of your life and you're a citizen of his divine kingdom. And then over here, we're going to get some Flourish questions for growth, talking about dissatisfaction based on chapter 4, verse 11. It says, with what aspects of your life do you feel dissatisfied? How can feelings of dissatisfaction rob you of God's blessing? And what do you think it means to learn to be content? All right, and that is going to take us to the end of Philippians. So that's the Flourish Bible for women. Let's go ahead and take a look at the Rooted Bible for men. And again, we're going to go through the same book, just so you can kind of compare the similarities and differences between them. So you can see this also is a green color scheme, but it's a little bit darker in the men's version, which I kind of like it a little bit darker. I think it makes it slightly easier to read. So that gives us a little bit of an edge in that respect. So let's go through this book introduction though. So this has exactly the same breakdown as it did in the women's Bible. So I won't read all that again, but it broke up the book exactly the same way. It's also going to have the author, the date, the audience, and the setting again. And then the verse to remember is exactly the same as it was in the women's Bible. And then the theme to consider is knowing Christ is the supreme goal of life. And now I can't remember if that was the same or not in the other one. I think it was similar. All right, so again, you're going to have that double column layout, 9.5 size font. This one's going to give us a think about discernment. That's from chapter 1, verses 9 through 11. And then knowing God gives us citizenship in heaven. So I'll read one of these. I'll read the one about discernment. So it says, think about discernment. Questions arise every day that need answers. What's the best way for you to use an unexpected financial windfall? How can you stay pure in the face of sexual temptation at work? How can you show Christ's love in your encounters with your neighbors? It's wise to consider questions such as these, not when they become pressing, but before you face them. The kind of discernment the Apostle Paul describes in Philippians 1 doesn't come naturally. It requires preparation, advanced thought and planning, and input from other mature believers. In short, it takes hard work. But the rewards of living a life that pleases God more than compensate for the effort involved. All right, we're also going to have a myth and truth article in this Bible as well. And this one is, my neighbor's problems are not my concern. And then gives you the truth with scripture on the opposite page. And then we have a think about anxiety. And we end here with some rooted questions for growth. So those questions are, with what aspects of your life do you feel dissatisfied? And how can feelings of dissatisfaction rob you of God's blessing? And what do you think it means to learn to be content? Those questions are pretty much word for word what were in the women's Bible as well. So that would be helpful if you were going through this with your spouse to have those similar questions to look at as well. And even if they're not, then you could kind of compare notes and talk about those different questions and your answers for both also. So that would be helpful if you're going through that with your spouse or in a small group that involves both men and women. Okay, so that is the book of Philippians in both of those Bibles. We have the Rooted Bible for men, and we have the Flourish Bible for women. Again, I think these would be really helpful. They complement each other well to go through with your spouse or your brother, your sister, your small group at church. Would be great for devotional time. Would be great to do a read through with those. There's some plans in the back of the Bible that you could use, like 30 and 60-day plans. There's also a subject index that you could do topical studies. So these Bibles are a really exciting new release from Zondervan that I think will be a good option for both men and women to study. So again, these are the NIV Flourish Bible for women, the NIV Rooted Bible for men, and Zondervan provided a copy of these Bibles in return for an honest review.